Well, it's time now to welcome a man that's done more in a half of a lifetime than many have in a life that spans over 70 plus years. He's one of the best MMA referees in the world and is recognized as such on being on the ballot for Referee of the Year. But he's not only a veteran official, he's a veteran, a former Air Force Thunderbird pilot that's coming off of a historic night of the UFC at Noche UFC at the Sphere, Las Vegas. This man is none other than Mark Smith. My God, what's going on?
Good to be here. What a great couple days, and thank you for having me back in.
So, is that smile ever going to go away after doing Noche UFC last night?
It won't. I saw Dana White do his press conference last night, and it's been a great run for the UFC. It's been a great run for MMA, but for us, we've had, coming off of COVID, we've had UFC 300, UFC 303, and now 306 UFC Noche, and it doesn't stop here. We got some exciting fights coming up overseas, and I think the UFC has promised that December is going to be an exciting card. So this smile is probably permanent.
Can't stop, won't stop. And as far as the UFC having all those events, you were a part of all those events.
Yes, yeah, we were. So there was a silver lining to COVID. They created the bubble here.
Yes.
And within that safety environment, it really gave a lot of the local officials who may not have the opportunity to get out and travel, we got a chance to get in there and really get proficient, and numbers-wise and proficiency-wise to become some of the leading officials in the world. And of course, the UFC has the Performance Institute and the Apex here, where they have the Fight Nights and Contender and Ultimate Fighter and SLAP, etc. So we get a lot of work here in this state. We're very lucky to be part of this state.
No, and I'm very lucky to be a part of this city as far as covering all that kind of stuff. Now, I wonder about this. A lot of people probably wonder, how did you end up getting your start as an MMA referee? Were you a former fighter, or did you just have a love for the sport?
So I've done martial arts for a number of years. Of course, I went to the Air Force Academy, where you have to do some form of physical sports, boxing, jiu-jitsu, etc. But for me, I was assigned here at Nellis Air Force Base. I went away for a couple of assignments, and when I came back, I rejoined my boxing gym under Skipper Kelp.
Skipper.
Over at Fight Capital.
Yeah.
And then I was also studying Muay Thai under Marvin Eastman.
Okay, I know the Beast Eastman.
Yes, great fighter.
Rest in peace, right?
Great teacher. So he had a fight somewhere, and he actually asked me to teach for him. And when I was teaching for him, these college students were in Vegas for the summer, and the boss man, Dana White, came in one night with a couple fighters that wanted to get in there and spar. Okay. And in some of the states, you have to have somebody in there to kind of coordinate the sparring, to keep it legal, not to go too hard, not make it an unsanctioned match.
Gotcha.
Skipper Kelp gave me the opportunity to get in there with them, and Dana White sat there and watched me do it and asked me had I ever officiated before. I had not. He got me in contact with the amateur promotion here, and I started judging, did that for about 6 months, and then I switched over to refereeing.
Okay.
And then the state commission, under the chairman at the time, Bill Brady, came to one of our amateur fights, saw me doing it, asked me to come to the commission meeting the next week, and had the very fortunate they brought me out to be a professional official, and here we are, some 14, 15 years later, still doing it.
Man, with a big smile on your face.
Absolutely. It's an incredible opportunity, and I'm very thankful for it.
Absolutely, but what's it like being that third person in the cage for a fight?
It's surreal. So you have to always not get lost in the fight. You have to consider that safety of the fighters is first and foremost. But I will admit it is the best seat in the house.
Oh, man.
Like last night, seeing two high-level female athletes, Valentina and Alexa, and being the one to get to moderate that or officiate that, it's a great opportunity. And, I try to get a serious face when I go in there, but once the fight is over and we kind of let back down, you realize how incredible this experience is, and very fortunate to be a UFC referee, Bellator, PFL, all these other organizations. I make the most of it.
And that's good that you actually made that distinction, just so folks know you're not just a UFC referee, you're an MMA referee, mixed martial arts, so you do the other organizations as well.
Yes, we don't work for the UFC or the promotion, PFL, Bellator. We actually work for the state
commission,
typically the boxing commission.
Okay.
But for us locally here, if you don't have the opportunity to travel, if you're not afforded the opportunity to travel, majority of our fights are here. So about 99% of the fights that I get to do are at the highest level with UFC fights.
Man. And of course, Las Vegas is the fight capital of the world. So what better place to actually have your home base and to have the franchise, really the first professional sports franchise that we had here in Las Vegas with the UFC. So that's got to be fantastic. Now, as far as UFC Noche, we talked a little bit about it. What was it like being inside of that cage with everything going on around? I mean, it was, to me, it was bananas, and I'm sitting there in the media row. You're inside of the dang octagon.
So I tried to, through video, log my entire day. Preparation, driving to the UFC headquarters, getting on the van, going to the Sphere. That was my first time inside the Sphere.
First time ever?
First time ever. I'd never been to a concert or anything like that, but I guarantee this, I will be going back for a concert because,
man,
what an incredible job they have done in building that. The technology of the arena is beyond belief, but combined with what they did, the UFC, the graphics, the representation, and giving praise to Mexican heritage with Mexican Independence Day, the videos, to me, if you go to a movie theater and put on the 3D glasses, that's what the experience felt like without 3D glasses, with the entirety of the screen, and it was just beyond belief. I tried to record as much as I could,
me too,
just to be able to share that with my friends and family and kids, etc. But you can't put it into words. You have to go to the Sphere to do an event.
Yes, and then on top of that, they had fights.
Yes.
You got all of that, but then on top of that, you have fights. So when you were there, before you had a chance to go into the cage and do your fight, where were you at? Please tell me you were somewhere you got an opportunity to sit back and kind of enjoy it before putting on your game face.
I got there a little bit early, so I do some of the preparation
okay.
For the officials. I look at the instant replay and all the judges' stations, but I got to walk around the arena and appreciate it. I got to walk up top. They had some of the holograms up top for some of the fighters, and then the facilities that they had downstairs for the fighters, it was top notch. And then I had the second fight of the night, so I got to sit back and just taking the entire experience with the introduction, listening to all the communications, the music, the entirety of it, and on top of that, a UFC fight in the octagon in front of us. So it was phenomenal.
No, that's really crazy. That's really crazy. So as far as that's concerned, just the fight that you ended up having, you had the championship fight between Valentina, as you said, and Alexa. I mean, it ended up changing hands, got you raising the hands of Valentina right there before you go to your shot at you as a Thunderbird, the serious face again. But what was that fight actually like, watching that? I mean, because obviously there was a lot of buildup going into that fight. It was their third one that they had. So
it was, of course, as you say, the trilogy. And I think what made this better is the ladies had just finished opposing coaches on this last season of the Ultimate Fighter.
Which you were a part of doing
which
that as well.
I was a part of. And what made that special, we had an unfortunate, one of our referees couldn't make it in for a fight. So I had to wind up doing every fight on one of the episodes. So I wound up doing, that day I did 5 straight fights, and in total I did like 9 straight fights.
Man.
So both coaches, who were very cordial to each other on the show, which you don't get all the time. There's a lot of rivalry sometimes. They were very cordial, but their staff, their assistant coaches, and their fighters all got very comfortable for me. So when the Nevada State Boxing Commission made the decision to make me the referee, sometimes you'll get concerns from camps over who officiates, which may or may not matter.
Yes.
The commission is going to make their decision. Both camps were comfortable with me. They were familiar with me, how I referee, how I communicate, and then of course treating the coaches, in this case the fighters, with the utmost respect. It made it for a really fun, easy night.
Oh, that was perfect. That was perfect. And as you said, you've been a referee currently for, you said like 14, 15 years?
So I started it's a little more than that. We're coming up on 16 years, I think.
16 years as a referee. And you started doing the amateur fights before you ended up doing, obviously, the UFC and PFL and everything else, which was great. But also, you referee slap as well?
Yeah, I'm one of the, so right now there are a couple primary slap referees. And then I've done every slap event. So from the inception of this with Dana and the commission, because this is a concept that's new for here. There's some other organizations around the world that do it, but it's never been done in this state. Some other states have done it, but this is a little bit different when you get to Nevada State Boxing Commission supporting it.
It's a top notch.
Yes, sir. So we were all part of the committee that, safety of the slappers, the fighters in this case, and the trial season for it, where we had a bunch of fights, and we do a fight and we go back and watch it and talk about how we improve safety, how we keep everyone moving forward to the next fight. Up until the point of this thing is, now culminated with our last event. We had the event at the Fontainebleau that had 5,000-6,000 people in there, and we're about to go overseas to Abu Dhabi here in a couple weeks to do an event over there. So I'm right there by the slappers, and it's another amazing opportunity.
The smile returns again. So, in being in the cage for a UFC fight and being right next to the slappers, as you say, one, I guess, do you see like maybe the impact of a punch or anything even being harder for one or the other? And just what's it like to actually witness that close, like literally that close to the opponents?
It's obviously very different sports, but preparation is the key for slap.
Okay.
So prior to the event, I'll get there. I'll do about an hour-long rules of safety meeting with the slappers.
Okay.
That's in conjunction with the staff, all of our doctors. Everyone goes through concussion protocols, and then we tell them how they have to safely and appropriately slap, so it's not cause a foul or cause an injury. Now, it's part of the fight game.
Yeah.
So people are going to get hit. You're going to, sustain. It's just like boxing or MMA. You're going to sustain something. That's what we signed up for. So some people may object to that, but as long as we keep them safe with a close eye from the doctors, we're going to keep doing it and have a lot of fun doing it.
Man. So the very first time you were there for your very first slap, what was that like?
It was at, if you're in high school or something, and growing up in Washington, D.C., some people didn't fight all the time. They used to just have slap boxing.
Yeah.
Kind of reminiscent of that, but in a professional, controlled environment where we can stop it and talk about it, and you have doctors there to take care of everyone. So it's kind of like when the UFC started. Smaller scale, but exploded up into what we have it today. Slap is going to be the same thing with our roster of fighters, with the support from officials and state commissions. I think they got sanctioned several other states, so it's going to be out there in a lot of different places.
And as you said, they're headed to Abu Dhabi soon, and Dana talks about it all the time, the fact just how big it is on social media. It's been very well as well. Okay, so you're a referee, you're up for, I guess really quickly, the fact that you're up for an award as being the top referee in the game. By who's the organization that does
It's the World MMA Awards by Fighters Only. So
Yes.
if you go to worldmmaawards.com, there's a little section down at the bottom for vote now, and it's for Referee of the Year, Fighter of the Year, Fight of the Year, International Fighter of the Year. It's a ton of awards on there. So you got a little bit of time, go in there and cast your award for it, and hopefully our local Nevada residents will cast their vote for their local.
And this is an international thing. It's not just for
Yes.
referees here in Las Vegas. So you're up for an international award as
That
the
is correct.
Referee of the Year.
Yes, sir. It's the World MMA Awards. So
I'm talking
everybody and anybody out there.
That's what I'm talking about. But so you're a referee, which is great. And I alluded to it in the open, the fact that you're a veteran as well. You're in the Air Force.
Yes.
Your side gig it's a really easy side gig. You're a pilot. You're a commercial pilot, and you flew for the Thunderbirds on top of being an instructor as well?
Yes. Yeah, so I did 22 years in the Air Force where I was an F-16 fighter pilot, and graduated from the Air Force Academy and went to pilot training, was fortunate enough to get a fighter airplane. In 2002, I made the Air Force Thunderbirds, and that was an incredible year because it was the 50th anniversary of the Thunderbirds, which coincided with the centennial 100th anniversary of Power Flight. So it was a special year to be on the Thunderbirds.
I mean, especially to be on the Thunderbirds, but to be on the Thunderbirds in general, like I've never met a Thunderbird actually. It's very nice to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
But you're a Thunderbird. So did you grow up as a kid wanting to be a pilot?
So, very fortunate. Growing up in Washington, D.C., we lived across the river from, at the time, Washington, D.C. National Airport, which is now Reagan Airport. My parents used to take us down to the parks down there, and I used to sit there and watch planes take off and land. And I think that kind of instilled something in me about wanting to fly. And then at a little bit older age, my parents took me to an air show where I got to see the Thunderbirds. And I said, that's exactly what I want to do. And then I had an uncle that was in the Air Force. So that kind of inspired me. And then with the guidance of my parents, my dad, Nar Sr., rest his soul, and my mom, Shirley, they pushed me and helped me get into the Air Force Academy. And that was my catapult to introduction to flying.
Man, so you literally have to have like nerves of steel, almost better than any person alive, at least to me. I mean, you're a referee, so you're in there doing fights. Stone face. I mean, you can never tell your emotions when you're refereeing a fight. You're doing slap. You're a referee pilot. You're a pilot for the Thunderbirds, which you guys are up there doing tricks and everything else. You got to have the tightest stomach in the world. Like, how do you? I don't know. One, how do you train for something like that? Because obviously the G-force and everything else. Do you have to do physical training in order?
So really, any Air Force pilot and fighter pilots on top of that have to be in good shape.
Gotcha.
One, because the endurance of the flights, the G-forces, and then as Thunderbirds, me personally, we wear those bright red uniforms. I like to look good in my uniform. You want your uniform to be skin tight, you want to be jacked, and you want to look good because you're representing the United States, you're representing the Air Force. So there was a lot of gym time. And then as far as the training, it's a progressive training. It's about 150 rides over the training season from anywhere from the end of November all the way up to March to the first air show. And we start off as a 2-ship about 7 feet apart. Then once you get proficient at that, you bring in a 3rd plane or maybe a 4th plane. Then we move to about 3 feet apart. And then eventually at showtime.
3 feet apart.
It gets closer to that though. At showtime, the wings are actually overlapped and there's about 18 inches of separation. I flew in a Diamond, which is the 4 planes that fly together. There's about 18 inches in between us, and you could probably reach your hand out and touch one of the other planes if the canopy wasn't there. But it's trust in the commander and each other, and it's proficiency with all those practice rides. And for our concept, we never had a perfect air show. So you as a fan or someone may have been the most beautiful thing they've ever seen. But it was all about getting better every single air show. So it was constant practice and constant proficiency.
So you're talking about not having a perfect air show. I mean, your life is literally on the line when you're up there doing that. You talk about, so if you don't have a perfect air show, is that perfect because you're not close enough or something? Or is it perfect, not perfect because of?
It's a relation. The Thunderbirds probably had a perfect air show. The Blue Angels never had a perfect air show. But they don't mind.
I love it.
No, honestly,
I love it.
I got a lot of friends that were
Marines,
Blue Angels. Right? They're Navy and Marines. But I got a lot of friends that were on the Blue Angels and Navy, et cetera, but they don't mind being second best to the Thunderbirds.
I love it. I love it. A little jab. It's okay. You can twist that a little bit.
I'm just telling the truth.
So, I have a million questions, especially about being a pilot. Because most people have like some sort of fear of flying or just, heights and everything else. Is there ever a time that you ever been nervous when you're?
Just close your eyes and hold your breath. No, so when you start off as an Air Force pilot, it's all about stages. I started off in a glider, then I went to a Cessna, then I went to a T-37. So the bigger and faster planes. And it's about confidence. It's that same type of confidence that I have to exhibit inside the octagon. I can't let a fighter see that I'm nervous or, if they're like that moment where there was a submission last night, that could have been oh wow, this is not good. But it's about remaining calm and using your training, your proficiency to make sure you make the right calls. The same thing as the Thunderbirds. We practice so many times that it almost becomes second nature. And if you've ever been to a Thunderbird air show, and sometimes they show inside the cockpit, it's about voice commands from the commander. So he or she will tell you before they turn, before they pull up, before they speed up, slow down. And it's a little bit of follow the leader, but we try to make it where it's one of the most beautiful things that people watching the air show have ever seen. It is beautiful.
It is very, very beautiful. So with that being said, I'm assuming you've had like celebrity guests on your
Yes.
Who's someone that you've had on there that's like someone be like, oh my goodness, don't tell me you're gonna have a president or something, but who
So in the Diamond, we tend to not fly the celebrities. Number 7 and number 8, which is the operations officer and the narrator, tend to fly the celebrities. But I mean, they've had Tony Hawk flew with us, Tiger Woods. So here in town, if you have the chance, go to Nellis Air Force Base, and there's the Thunderbird Museum on base. And there's a wall of celebrities that have gotten to fly with us, like Mary Lou Retton, the Olympians back in the day, got to fly with us.
Wheaties box and everything else.
Yeah, and a lot of newscasters get to fly with us if you present for the opportunity.
No, I've wanted to do that, even though I'm a security cat. I mean, obviously, people want to hold their lunch. That's like maybe something that, I don't know if you guys try to do that or maybe it's a joke behind, but.
Don't want anybody to get sick with you because we're in essentially the same cockpit. You sit right behind us, but that's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. You don't want someone to get sick. You want them to
enjoy it.
Yes, like Joe Rogan went for a ride with the Blue Angels. He talked about his experience. Some people, ego-wise, may try to put it on you and get you to go to sleep with the G's. I don't want to do that. I want you to, we do that vertical takeoff. I'm going to tell you to look over your shoulder and see Las Vegas disappearing back behind you.
That's so crazy.
I want it to be a great experience for you. So you just talk to the Thunderbirds and see if you get a ride.
That's just so crazy to me. So obviously, when you're flying those type of airplanes, they don't have autopilot, or do they?
Not the true sense the airlines have. We have a altitude hold and a direction hold, so you can take your hands off the controls and essentially let it fly. If you do a long flight overseas, like going to the Middle East or something like that, you can take your hands off the controls and let it do it. There's a little bit of room in there. You could bring food and other stuff like that if it is a long flight, but the planes are designed to be in a combat scenario where it's hands-on. We have a side stick and the throttle's over here, so it's designed to keep your hands on that the entirety of the time to be able to proficiently perform your combat mission.
See, and I mean, the interviews is about you, right? Being a referee and everything else, and obviously your life deals with you being a pilot as well. And just me personally doing this, I have so many questions about just being a pilot and whatnot. It seems so. When you're flying a commercial airline, obviously you have an opportunity, as you said, to be an autopilot and whatnot. But how often are you just sitting there holding the?
Majority of the time, it's on autopilot. So you have to. It's hands-on when you taxi it out, and then we actually hands-on when you take off.
Gotcha.
And then when it's at a comfort level for the pilot, it can be 1,000 feet or higher or 5,000, just depends on your preference.
Gotcha.
You can hit the autopilot. Now we still have to tune in the heading, altitude, all those kind of things. But like my route is usually to Hawaii. 5.5 hour flight. Majority of that flight, it's on autopilot. We're still eyes on, monitoring. There's a pilot flying and there's a pilot monitoring. But between the two of us, we're still watching everything. And we want that to be the most incredible experience for you as a passenger. We can't control turbulence. We can't control weather. We can't go around it. But we still want it to be a pleasant experience for you as a passenger to have you come back and fly with us again.
Folks, did you notice he put on his pilot voice real quick?
Yes, we do have those.
You have the pilot voice really quick. Okay, so we have SLAP, we have MMA referee, we have you being up for the World MMA Awards as the referee of the year, which is fantastic. And I'm going to vote. Make sure you guys all vote for that. Is there something else that you do as well? Let's see. You were you worked at the White House.
I did. Well, the first thing that I do is, above everything else, I'm a very proud parent. I'm a single parent.
Yes.
So I try to keep safety and security of my kids. So you won't see a lot of stuff out there about on social media about it, because there are some fans that may not like me based on how I made a call and reference. So I'm very protective of my kids.
As you should.
I have very incredible kids that make Dad proud. And then that being said, when I left the Thunderbirds, 2005, I went to the Naval War College in Rhode Island. And after there, I was selected by President Bush to be a White House Fellow. And a White House Fellow is usually the president every year selects about 12 to 15 people to serve in their administration directly for the president. They could task you in the White House. They could put you at the State Department, the CIA headquarters, wherever they want to put you. So the president assigned me to NASA, and then I was a senior White House advisor at NASA for President Bush in 2006, 2007. And non-political position, under a partisan president,
Gotcha.
But you're in a non-partisan position, which makes it better because you can effectively communicate and get stuff done on both sides of the fence, regardless of political affiliation.
So just so we know and everyone knows, even the people in our booth and everything else, like I really shouldn't even be sitting at the table with you. I shouldn't even be able to sit here. So you work for President Bush. You worked at NASA as well.
Yes.
So you working at NASA, you're a pilot. Did you have anything to do with obviously the space program and all that kind of stuff as well?
So I worked directly for NASA Administrator Griffin in a non-standard capacity, being the White House advisor. I was a direct link between NASA and the White House.
Gotcha.
And Administrator Griffin gave me a tasking for the year. So what I did is, for the Air Force, I had to do a big project for the year. That coincided, Administrator Griffin had me do the budget, which is, you can imagine,
the biggest budget ever, like $1 million zeros.
Astronomical literally for NASA. So that was the budget that I created with all the programs, presented that to him, and we turned that into congressional approval to get the funds for the next year.
Gotcha.
And that was a big one because that was the last year of the space shuttle flying. So, so I was loved by some and I was hated by some because it included the cancellation of the space shuttle program.
Yeah.
But that was expected, so
Yeah.
it wasn't any surprises, but it was an effective budget that we submitted.
Okay, so with this being said, I have to know, because I want to do this, please tell me you've done the non-gravity experience before.
I've done that in the F-16 before. So
I guess when you're flying,
you can just push on the stick and you can go negative, but that, when you get in, they call it the vomit comet or something like that. I think that's one of the companies that does it. I've never done that before, so I'll pass on that. Negative G's do not feel good.
Oh, really? You can feel it in your stomach if you're floating around, that sort of deal?
You know, so like if you go watch a Thunderbird show, the solos do a lot of upside down flying.
Yeah.
And they actually have to push on the stick to maintain because the plane is designed for 1G to go down. So when they roll inverted, they have to push over a little bit. So you get the light butterflies in your stomach, but also you think about it, you're turned upside down, that blood is rushing to your head.
That's
so
true.
It can cause a little bit of a headache. So I try to stay away from that.
Okay.
Yeah. But have fun with that. Let me know how it goes.
Have fun with that. Let me see how it goes. Okay. So have you ever been to any of the space shuttle launches or anything like that? Obviously, you're in NASA. You're down, were you in Houston or something like that?
So Houston is the control center. So
Gotcha.
NASA headquarters is actually in Washington, D.C.
Oh.
But we do the launches down in Florida.
Yeah.
During my year there, I did every single space shuttle launch. And it was incredible. I got to bring, my kids got to come to the space shuttle launch. I got to bring my parents to a space shuttle launch. And
that's amazing.
Where we sit, the old clock that's out front in the grass, there's actually a building right behind that that's about 5 or 6 stories. Up on top of that, there's about a 100-yard platform that you could sit and watch the shuttle launch out in front of you. And it is as close as you can get outside of the control center to the actual launch because of sound and vibration. But when that shuttle would take off, you could feel the vibration hitting you in the chest. That's how close you are. So I got to do, 6 of those, and then
just 6.
6 during that time, and then I went back for the last night space shuttle launch. Celebrate my daughter's birthday. My daughter was thinking about, becoming an astronaut, and I surprised her and took her down there for her birthday, and we got to watch the last night launch.
So okay, so you're doing all this stuff. You're really making me feel bad up here. I have 2 daughters, so I haven't taken my daughter to a space shuttle launch as of yet.
No more shuttle though, so that's all good.
Okay. So that had to have been amazing for her. Did she end up going or wanting to?
No,
space
as
program?
kids get a little bit older, she was 12 at the time.
Okay.
So she gets a little bit older. And this is my daughter I'm not sure if you knew this, my daughter was Miss Nevada Teen USA. And
of course, why would she not be?
So that was my first daughter. And then my second daughter went to Bishop Gorman.
Yes.
And she was McDonald's All-American basketball. She was all-state track and field. And, so very proud parent. But, to answer your question, she did not go into space. She wound up doing some other things, and she's actually living overseas right now. So as kids progress, they get a little bit older, their decisions change. And as Dad left NASA, maybe the incentive wasn't there as much, but I still love it. I think we had a launch the other day from, one of the private programs, and actually one of my former Thunderbird teammates after me was the pilot of that, Scott Poteet. He commanded that.
Wow, so he went from Thunderbirds to...
Yeah, he's done some other stuff, and now he's in that space program that just went up the other day.
Man, so you've been around a few folks.
Very fortunate.
So with all this being said, another question that it begs, where did you go to school? Actually, obviously you're in the Air Force Academy,
yeah.
But...
So I went to, I'm from Washington, D.C. area, so I went to DeMatha Catholic High School.
Okay.
And that was incredible because if you don't know the story about DeMatha, you got to look it up. I played basketball under Morgan Wooten, who's probably one of the greatest coaches of all time. For a while there, he was the most winningest coach ever across any high school sport.
Gotcha.
And then from there, I went to the Air Force Academy and graduated from the Air Force Academy with my focus was in law, so a little bit of pre-law, but it was under a business degree. And then from there, I tell my kids it doesn't end. I've gone back to school 3 times, so I got 3 master's degrees, and I'm trying to figure out if we're going to do a PhD, but I'm enjoying life a little bit too much right now to put myself through that.
Oh, man, so this interview's over. I feel about this small talking to you.
I will say why, though. Because of my parents.
Yeah.
My parents were incredible parents growing up, supportive of myself and my brother. And my mom was an educator, so she always, encouraged, stay in those books, try to keep going back to school to not only be street smart, but also book smart, so you can apply both sides of it. And growing up in Washington, D.C., you got to know a little bit of both. We grew up in Southeast Washington, D.C. So
I've heard of D.C. At one point, it was like the murder capital.
It was. That was, the time that I was growing up. So my parents were always like, just choose your friends wisely, be careful where you go, and, make it out of the hood. That's kind of the philosophy that we had. And, I'm very fortunate, very proud Washingtonian. I won't ever give that up. I'm born and raised in Washington, D.C., and but we live here in Las Vegas right now.
I'm very
proud of that.
From Chocolate City to Sin City.
That's right.
And you're a hooper, so I mean, okay, do you still do a little?
Nope.
He said, no, sir.
I will watch my daughter play, but that's funny. It's different. As we progress in age, my focus is on MMA right now.
Yeah.
To try to be one of the best referees in the world. So I don't want to injure myself or do anything to jeopardize a fight. So I do stay in the gym. We go to the gym myself constantly, 5-6 times a week, but it's really for my personal health, but also to be a great referee and push some fighters around if I have to stop a fight something.
Oh, yeah, because you have to have some strength in order to be in between heavyweights. I mean, you're with Valentina and Alexa last night, but I mean, you might have to be in between Francis Ngannou and somebody. I mean, you've probably done a few of his fights, or no?
I have not done one of his fights, but what happens here is the boss picks fighters to referee based on capabilities and how he thinks you're going to match up. And our executive director, Mullen, tends to put me in there with some of the big heavyweights because he likes the way I stop fights and, either with verbal commands or physical commands with the fighters. These guys weigh in at 265 fight night, but if they hydrate back up, they could come back into the fight at 300 pounds. So you got to maintain some strength and flexibility to be able to handle the fight, and that's why I stay in the gym.
Okay, I got you. Just to let folks know that I'm not just a referee. You better leave you alone.
And most of us understand the sport too. So, my background is with boxing and in Muay Thai, but you got to understand all aspects of the sport to know what you're looking at, to know if someone is in trouble in a fight, be able to apply that back to your officiating, and again, first and foremost, keeping the fighter safe.
Got you. Man, I could literally talk to you forever. I mean, I remember the old commercial, The Most Interesting Man. It may be Mr. Mark Smith over here. Is there anything that I haven't touched on that people need to know? I mean, the fact that you've raised kids that are in college or out of college, graduates already. I mean, that's, as you said, the number one goal of any parent is to be well with their kids. But professionally, you've done so much that I'm almost getting tired of seeing these Thunderbird pictures of this guy in the back.
We got another big thing going on that we try to get out there. So during COVID, some folks sat around and, did social media all day or watched movies all day. Not to say we didn't do that, because my kids and I did try to relax and not stress out too much.
Absolutely.
But I went back to school during COVID.
Of course.
So I got a master's degree in exercise wellness, physiology, and nutrition.
Of course.
And then the focus was we're building a health and wellness program corporate for my home company, but we're also applying that to some other people that we're going to put that out there for, and it's going to include everything, active workouts, nutrition, and then specifically for us as airline crew, it's really tough to eat healthy on the road, in the airport, with expensive or not so healthy food, and then once we get on the road, wherever your destination is, hotel food, maybe a little bit more expensive. So we're trying to get the word out there and build an appropriate app for people to use with healthy choices. Shopping ahead of time, carrying the food bag, and how to eat healthy on the road. Because you can't put on those, those easy 20 pounds just by eating airport food or whatever if you're not careful. So.
No, being a media member, I understand that. Traveling with football teams at some point, you get a lot of media food, so you can pack on the LBs if you're not exercising. So this is an app that someone can get on and they can actually...
We are building it right now, so we're in the building stages of it, but I'd love to share that with you upon completion of it. We're close right now, and we're looking at clients that we have brought on to bring them on, and we just don't want it to be a scripted ABC. We want to be able to work with the clients to determine what you want in there for your employees. And it's not just a health and wellness side of it, it's the educational benefit side of it. Like at my airline company, we do a lot of our academic training on our iPads, where they send out material, you have to study it. A company may want you to do the same type of thing, so we're going to incorporate all this into one place you can go to, and healthy body, healthy mind, healthy soul. Keep it all together.
Oh, absolutely. And it's key, especially as you get older. Even if you're younger, I mean, being healthy and exercising is key, especially trying to eat well.
It is, yes.
Is also key. Last but not least, on the way out of here, Dana said it was a one and done, but come on, wow. Can we? Would you love to go back there to do another UFC?
I would love to go back there. It's they talked about the expenses of it. I think he said there were over $20 million in production.
Yeah.
But if they offer the opportunity, I would encourage everybody to go get your tickets day one, because those that didn't get to go, I understand a lot of people watch it on TV, pay-per-view, et cetera.
It was expensive,
which was phenomenal, but the experience inside the Sphere, and kudos to the Sphere for what they have built, and the UFC for what they put in there. But I'd be the first one to stand in the line and be like, boss, I volunteer for this next opportunity to do it. So yes, I hope they do it again. 1,000%.
I've told as many people that will listen to me, whoever designed, or the engineer who designed the Sphere, like this person is going to be the hottest person worldwide, because I can't imagine why these won't be popping up in every major city around the world.
I think they're building one overseas, and like for a Riyadh season, either in Abu Dhabi or something. But let's hope they and the UFC and their production staff get proper recognition with awards and Emmys. Another thing for that was a phenomenal experience. You're starting to see all the stuff come out on social media with the filming and everything, but that doesn't do it justice for actually sitting there looking at it. Yeah.
No, not even close. I mean, you've talked about it. I've done the same thing. I've texted and talked to a million people, folks that were there, folks that were not there, because I've posted on my social media as well. It's still almost a high just being there watching. I wasn't as close as you. I mean, it was one of the more phenomenal events I've ever been a part of.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah. Mr. Mark Smith, referee, airline pilot, Thunderbird, worked at the White House. Moreover, a proud father and a good friend. I appreciate you.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate you having me here, and I look forward to come back. This is a good time, and I'll sit down with you anytime you want. So let's do this again sometime soon.
Absolutely.